Robert, I don't think this is very funny. Bobby. Who is this?
As you watch the screen, your heart begins to beat faster. There's a fluttering in the pit of your stomach. Your throat is dry. Your palms damp. Suddenly a chill runs down your spine. You clutch the person next to you. You tell yourself, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. But sooner or later, it's time to go home.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Ron.
And this is our review of Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, starring Melody Kinnaman, John Shepherd, Shavar Ross, Marco St. John, Richard Young, Juliet Cummings, and Dick Brown. Directed by Danny Steinman, released in 1985 on a budget of $2.2 million, grossed $21.9 million at the box office. So, I have strong memories of seeing this film. I caught it in my teen years on one of those free HBO weekend things or whatever, and I was like, oh, I've never seen this one. This will be cool, because I thought I was missing something between parts 4 and 6 to sort of bridge the gap or whatever. And turns out I kind of missed Friday the 13th's version of Halloween 3, where let's do it, but not with our main characters.
Yeah, that's... you're not wrong there. It's definitely not... I think this is what started the entire series on a path to not making as much money.
Oh, yeah, it definitely went down a different road. This is the thing, and I always talk about this. For a series that had to crawl out of the gutter to begin with, to get as good as it got in Part 4, which I think is far superior to anything else they've put out so far, to then do this is, I can't think of a good analogy to it. It's like when Kiss took off their makeup and tried to do acoustic ballads all of a sudden. in the 80s, if you remember Hot for the Sun, they had a song on there called Forever, which was co-written by Michael Bolton. And as a pop song, it's not bad, but when I think this is Kiss doing this song, it seems rather disingenuous that the guys who also wrote Let's Put the X in Sex wrote a song about foreverness. It feels like that sort of just broad left turn into nowhere Albuquerque all of a sudden.
Yeah, and it's definitely not as satisfying for it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It never quite feels like a Jason movie.
No, it doesn't. It feels well, and it's probably good because Jason's not in it. So, but the funny thing is, all the things that we think about with Jason in pop culture, all the over-the-top multi-instrument kills and things like that, start here with Roy the Random EMT. All the just flare in the mouth and all the stuff we're going to talk about started in Part 5. And it's like they kept the continuity idea of the through line together, but throughout the characters.
Well, I think we should just go ahead and jump right into explaining this ridiculous plot.
I think we should, and I'm going to leave that to you to tell us what happens in Friday the 13th, Part 5.
I'll do my best to mask my disgust here. Tommy, reeling from the experience with Jason years earlier, is transferred to a secluded halfway house where other young patients soon become victims of serialized killings in the style of Jason Voorhees. Tommy even sees Jason in various places as the bodies stack up, but no one believes him. As it turns out, Jason isn't back at all. Instead, an ambulance driver named Roy is killing people dressed up like Jason in an attempt to get revenge for the death of his estranged son, killed earlier in the movie by another patient at the camp. which
Go on,
is
go
yeah.
on.
Tommy eventually turns the tables on Roy, and he dies on farming. However, Tommy dons Jason's or Roy's mask at the end, leading us to believe he may be ready to take up the mantle.
Yeah.
Which let me just say, if it had been Tommy the whole time, better movie.
Oh, by far. Can I tell you how cheated I always feel that it isn't him? Like, it's the red herring of all red herrings, and it should have paid off. Like, how could they not? Because they almost want to do that at the end anyway, because he's got the knife on Pam, the assistant director, who doesn't wear underwear and white shirts in the rain at the camp. Well, let's start there, though, with that, because there's a Corey Feldman cameo we'll need to talk about. But first things first, your entire family is murdered at a camp, and the institution decides the thing you need to do to transition back into reality is go hang out in the woods.
Yeah, is this like that? That therapy where they that they do to people to get them to get rid of their phobias. Like, all right, we're going to stand with the snake across the room, and then every so often we're going to bring the snake a little closer until we drape it around your neck, and then you'll see snakes aren't anything to be afraid of, except it's a machete-wielding serial murderer / demon.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. I question the values of this camp. Also, what is this halfway house camp? Like, the other people that are there who are just the body count in this movie, I don't know why any of them are there or what treatment they are seeking. There are two sex crazed people. There's a girl that break dances. There's there's the random fat kid that gets killed early that turns out to be Roy's son. There's the Clint Eastwood lookalike who kills him. I don't know what these people are doing, like what therapy they're having out here at the camp.
I'm going to say it's one of those things where they like a bad kid work camp. Like how they'll send kids to in movies, they'll send kids to cattle ranches and stuff and be like, you're going to work hard all summer and it's going to get the axe murderer out of you.
Yeah, maybe that is it. You know what was funny, though, watching this, and I know it came out in 1985, I was having sort of flashes in my head of this feels like the same dynamic they were setting up in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. It's sort of the same idea. But done much better in Dream Warriors than here, I will say. So, okay, let's just open up the movie. Corey Feldman.
Halloween 4? How the little girl puts the mask on at the end, the clown mask on.
Right, and she's supposed to be the new killer, but then they totally wuss out on that in the next time. Which, if you ask Danielle Harris at a horror convention, and you can find her there, she'll tell you that's what she thought was going to happen, was she was going to be Michael's little accomplice or whatever. So, which would have been much better in Part 5 than what we got. But I digress into another series that we've already talked about. Let's talk about the opening here, though, because we do get our Corey Feldman cameo in between shooting Goonies and trying to be a legitimate actor. In his backyard, they bury Jason Voorhees and make him dream that a couple of yahoos are digging him up, right?
Yeah, pretty much. He had one day off every week from shooting Goonies, and he used that one day off to show up for this cameo. This goes back to the whole the issue of who gave Jason Voorhees a grave. I can only assume that's some sort of hallucination on his part and that nobody actually buried Jason somewhere.
Well, you hold that because Part 6 predicates on that idea. I guess everybody gets buried somewhere, especially in Crystal Lake. I mean, holy cow, they seem to just, they should have a pretty good cottage industry of funerals in that town. I mean, they only had to perform 40. Through a couple of weeks there. So, then a Part 4, really, how was Crystal Lake not murder capital of the world for a decade?
I mean, it's practically at Detroit levels of homicide.
Detroit probably stepped up the game to catch up to Crystal Lake, I think. So, but yeah, we get this ragtag group of, I wrote down mental patients or something. I don't know. The first thing that hits me is he wakes up in the back of this car, new Tommy, not Corey Feldman, who barely speaks in this film, by the way. And I blame that almost all on the fact that they hired this guy and then realized this guy is awful. Don't give him lines. And so they took him all away and gave him to somebody else. Gave him to the kid that played Dudley, I guess, or whatever. So,
Yeah.
With Richie the Reckless. But they have this group of people, and like they're working on farm equipment. This one guy's on a tractor, and then he's chopping wood with an axe. And there seems to be a lot of physical labor at the camp. Maybe it is right. Maybe it is one of those boot camp things you were talking about.
But then I'm not sure why the one kid who is clearly implied that he's mentally handicapped is there to raise, or what's his name's son?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Roy's son.
Roy's son.
Here's the thing on Roy's son, who loves chocolate bars and getting in the way of laundry and things like that. To get the idea that his mother's not alive, right? And so they don't know who the father is. This is all revealed in the end that Roy is the father through some clippings in his wallet that he, I'm glad he left that behind for everyone to figure out.
Oh, yeah.
And so to piece all this together, like the end of Psycho or something at the end of this movie, all of a sudden, I don't know why he's there other than maybe he had nowhere else to go. And this is just sort of where they stuck him. I sort of almost took it like maybe Joey just sort of hung out and like helped around the camp. Maybe he wasn't a patient, but then they make it clear he's got files and is a patient. So I don't know.
Yeah. He's Lenny from of Mice and Men, I guess. I think that's his whole issue. Maybe he like accidentally killed someone by trying to pet their head and broke their neck.
Well, look, he goes after the two girls doing laundry, and it's like, you don't want my help? Fine, I'll go somewhere else. And I'm like, I could see this dude like accidentally, lighting the house on fire and killing, 20 school children or so, something like that. Like he's probably been involved in stuff where he doesn't realize what he's done.
Yeah, he's definitely a bedwetting pyromaniac type.
Oh, for sure. But he loves that chocolate because he's double fisting those suckers too. He's got on a sweater, and I don't know. It's very strange, but we waste no time, like 5 minutes, and he gets it in the back by Vic with the axe. Who not only does that, we get a great shot when they lift up the bed sheet or whatever, and like he chops him to pieces, man. Like he totally dismembers Joey.
Yeah, I honestly don't understand it.
I think Vic just had enough and was like, you know what? I got no problem going back to prison. Maybe the food was so bad he just wanted to go back to Cell Block C. I think it's actually put out as a red herring that we're supposed to think that this guy escapes somewhere along the way and then kills everybody, but we never see this dude again. Ever.
It's like they cut that part of the movie out and they left the murder because they spent all the money on the murder, and then they left out the part where he's supposed to escape police custody and be on the run. And maybe, come back to be another victim of fake Jason.
And replaced it with Roy, the EMT. So
Who makes absolutely no sense.
Well, look, but they lay that out so quick, though. It's so obvious that this guy is somebody you can that you're supposed to pay attention to because they linger on him. When they show the Joey body and he like flinches. Like, oh no, or whatever. And I don't know. I just thought it was so obvious. I'm like, this guy is nobody, and we are focusing on him. So that tells me immediately he's somebody to pay attention to.
I just assumed, at least the first time I watched it, I just assumed that they were just going to have him be like Horny Doctor Part 2, the paramedicing or whatever.
Part 4? Yeah, he's Axel's cousin or something like that.
Yeah, I was just, I wasn't saying he was in Part 2. I was just saying it was going to be like the return of Horny Doctor.
Yeah,
in the gropey paramedic.
Maybe so. Maybe that's what they went for. But lingering shots of this dude.
Then I also assumed that's why they kind of made him a scumbag, so we wouldn't be bothered when Jason killed him. But turns out he was Jason.
I know. And I guess we're not supposed to be bothered when he gets thrown on farm equipment later. So, but because I'm not, I'll just go ahead and tell you. But the thing is, though, and we've got to talk about this because it should be said, the director here never did anything else and really only worked in like porn beforehand, right? Danny Steinman. And the thing that gets me about this is that they told him when he did this that every 6 to 7 minutes they needed a kill on screen. So they wrote the script with that idea, which I haven't seen a lot of porn, but I've been told that that's how porn movies are structured too, that every 5 to 6 minutes you get some action, right? And that's what we have here is you can almost set a watch by it, man. In this movie, every 5 to 6 minutes, there's some gratuitous murder on screen.
Yeah, and it's pretty much always not... Yeah, it pretty much is always meaningless murder as well.
Well, like, that's the thing. This whole movie is concocted as a revenge tale for Roy, who is set off because he's a deadbeat dad. His son gets chopped up, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'll show them. I'll do it just like Jason. And, like, the way he has all this put together, this is incredibly premeditated, or else he worked real fast to get into murder mode. You know?
I just don't understand why, and I know it's pointless to look for some logic in this flick, because there's none. But I just don't understand why we're supposed to be like, oh, it made sense. He killed because that was his son. The son that he neglected. The son that he pawned off on a halfway house.
Right.
The son that he probably gave type 2 diabetes to by feeding him candy bars.
Well, I mean, like, it was told he never had any... Joey didn't even know who his father was. He was never in the picture, but he was aware of it. I'm like, what are you, stalking him?
Well, I mean, it kind of fits his creepy MO.
It's you know what? What is so funny is I watched the Truman Show not long ago, and I kind of felt like maybe Roy was kind of like the dad on the Truman Show, and he got forced out somehow, and we didn't know. So I don't know. It's very, very strange. But we just set up more random murder, right? Because I mean that's what has to happen every 5 to 6 minutes here is random murder. So the next two are guys who look like they're trying out for parts in Grease, right? Like a Grease revival over in Crystal Lake or something. Pete and Vinny.
I'd watch that movie.
I almost would, right? But they get the over-the-top kills again. Vinny gets a road flare in the mouth, you know, which is so cheesy looking. And then Pete gets his throat cut with a machete from the back seat. So Roy not only knows how to kill like Jason, but he can also move like a ninja because he sneaks in and out of cars and buildings and like nobody ever hears him coming.
He's definitely been studying the one of those compilation DVDs from the early 2000s where it's all of Jason's best kills because he definitely knows the MO. He definitely found the network of ridiculous tunnels that they establish in the remake, and he's moving entirely too quickly for someone who's built like a doughy paramedic.
I would say, yeah, he's not like a built dude, but he's not small either. He's just just your average everyday schlub, you know, right? But he has unbelievable strength in this film to do things. It's like when he puts the Jason mask on, he becomes something else. But they're telling us the whole time that this is not really Jason with the outfit. You know, and this is one of those little horror geek things, but even I noticed it when I saw this when I was a kid. It was like the Jason mask didn't have blue on it, it had red on it, and that's the Roy mask. That's how you're supposed to know that's Roy, is the blue chevrons on the hockey mask.
I just assumed that it was a continuity error on the part of the filmmakers.
Yeah, you know what? It may have started out as one, but then they do flashbacks where Tommy's seeing Jason and he's wearing the red mask. Which makes me think that, like, no, somebody actually thought this out, you know, which also makes me realize there are people working on this movie that put thought into it. Holy cow. How an empty existence.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. I guess that's why they have, why they have so many credited screenwriters, why 3 people had to write this movie.
3 people wrote this. I bet you 30 people wrote this. I bet it was written as they shot it. Like, okay, time for kills 4 and 5. So what's going to happen next? We're going to kill 2 other people that we don't like. You know, for no other reasons than why not? You know, we get an axe in the head.
Kids like Grease too, right? Let's have some greasers get killed.
Right, but then we just kill a couple of other random people too. Let's get an axe in the head. Let's put an axe in the ample chested lady. You know, because why not? more kills. Sheriff's starting to get worried. I'd get worried too, Sheriff. You're the sheriff of a town that has, most of it got killed a few years ago, and now it's starting again.
Yeah, it's a town where there's nobody between the ages of 12 and about 25 because they're all dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how did you convince people to move here? The real estate must be cheap, or something. But yeah, you've got all these random people around. Can we talk about the next door neighbors, the rednecks, for a minute? Ethel and Junior?
Yeah, sure.
Oh boy, yeah, awful stereotypes, right? But I'll give that woman credit; like, she goes for it.
Oh, she's 200% in, and I think that's another red herring that they're trying to establish by having these creepy out of place. I didn't know there were like creepy redneck shacks in New Jersey. But apparently Deliverance is everywhere.
Yeah, is that, or it felt like, one of the Texas Chainsaw
yeah, it's like Texas Chainsaw with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, the fourth one, yeah.
These are two people who were going to be in, well, I guess at this time period it would have been Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 Leatherface, but they just, moved him to a different flick or
something, yeah.
Or these scenes were cut out of The Hills Have Eyes too. And
yeah, they were put into there, but they're all mad because there's these two people, Tina and Eddie, who are always sneaking off to go screw over on their land. And so I'm going to get these, and I'm going to say something. This is one thing about this movie that is blatantly obvious. This movie is foul. I mean, the language, I don't usually perk up to language in a film because I've seen so many, but like in this one, I was going, man, it's like they're just working it in like too much. It's overdone, the cursing and the vileness coming out of these people's mouths.
Yeah, it's like somebody watched Eddie Murphy or like all the pointless curse words in like 48 hours and we're like, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, and not only do we have to work in random murder every 5 minutes, but we have to work in random cursing too. So
for absolutely no reason, just like they throw in curse words to throw in curse words, and I mean, it's not even like the fun kind of cursing that you get in like a Quentin Tarantino flick, or the charismatic kind of cursing that you'll get in like The Devil's Rejects. It's just, well, we haven't said the F word in like 3 sentences, so let's just throw it in there.
Actually, I feel like Rob Zombie was taking notes of this and has replicated it many times in his career. I feel like a lot of his stuff does come off this way, but it is just worked in for shock value only. I mean, you can tell that these people don't know what they're doing, and they're just working from kill to kill. And now we get the most random kill of all, though. This dude just rolls up at Ethel's place looking for some food, and she's like, go clean out the chicken coop, right? And while he's doing that, he catches Tina and Eddie, getting it on the beach blanket, and he gets knifed in the stomach. And I'm like, well, they didn't even allow him to turn red as a herring. Like, he barely got to yellow.
That's why I thought that was just part of them setting up Ethel and or her son, whose name I can't remember, Junior, as red herrings, like. That I don't know, that they were going to kill this dude and he was going to go into Farmer Vincent's fritters or something.
Something, I don't know. But you get that extended love scene there, which I understand a much more of a scene exists, and they cut it down because people were like, Danny, this isn't porn. You can't shoot it that long. And so, and poor Tina, the woman played, whose name is Voorhees, by the way. I think her name's Deborah Voorhees in real life, gets killed with garden shears in the eyes and subsequently was fired from 2 teaching jobs when they found out she did this scene. I'm like, man, your teachers union sucks. If they can't protect you from something you did in your 20s. Oh,
yeah, that must have been like a right to work state.
has to be. I'm like, man, like not once, but twice. Like, holy cow, some kid probably outed you because you gave him a bad grade or something. So that's all I can think of. But yeah, she gets the garden shears in the eyes, which, by the way, is a great kill. Can we just say, like, I mean, it's incredibly gruesome, but you can just see it happen, you know? And then Eddie gets his head crushed with a leather strap, which is not a good kill, and the fake blood is obvious.
Yeah, we go from a really good kill to like a really bad kill.
Yeah, in the span of like 10 seconds, we should say, by the way, for anybody that hadn't seen this recently, like it happens one on top of the other. So it's like if you watch your favorite team and they make a good play and then they turn the ball over the next play. You know, it's like, well, that was useless.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or like watching the Lions play, if you're into that. So.
But it's weird because we already mentioned that a different Wes Craven movie. But this Danny Steinman was supposed to do a sequel to Last House on the Left,
right?
And then when that fell through, they gave him this movie, and he was supposed to direct like 5 other movies for Paramount for some reason.
I'm sure they saw this and were like, "Can we just cut him the check and not?" Because, I mean, it's just so bad. And I don't want to lay it all. I mean, the man's dead, so he doesn't care. But I don't want to lay it all at his feet. I don't think he was given a whole lot to work with. And having to work under that ridiculous directive of every 5 minutes you got to have a kill scene, he obviously sacrificed whatever story there might have been to accomplish that goal. Because it just seems like all we're doing is jumping from this to this to this.
Yeah, the leather strap killing is terrible. I can only assume that when they were editing the movie, they were like, "Oh man, it's been 8 minutes without a kill. Let's go back and reshoot something." But we already spent all the money. Oh, I know. We'll get a belt, and fake Jason will kill him with a belt.
Right. Yeah. It's so terrible. Right. But we get a little break from the killing here for just a few minutes, where Tommy and Pam, who's the assistant director, and Reckless Reggie, whose grandfather is the cook at this place.
We'll call him Dick Halloran.
Yes, he is very like Dick Halloran's cousin, right? So, or he's the old man, the old African-American man in the trailer park. If you've seen The Last Starfighter, it's the same actor.
That's where I noticed it. That's where I knew him from.
Good day to day, Alex. Yeah, so I knew that face. Yeah, so I knew that face. But Reggie here, though, man, how can you not know this guy, Dudley, from Different Strokes, right? Like, he was on that stuff and has played all those young roles or whatever. They go to visit his brother, whose name is Demon, and has a girlfriend named Anita.
Speaking of familiar faces, this wonderful actor, Miguel A. Nunez, is infamous for being in one of my favorite movies of all time, Return of the Living Dead.
I didn't realize that was him. I wanted to ask, is this the guy from Joanna Man? Because he kind of looked like that, too. He's in Return of the Living Dead?
Yes, he plays another mildly out-of-place black punk rock guy with a Jerry curl.
I mean, yeah, it's like he's like a background member of DeBarge or something here. Is what he looks like to me, or one of Michael Jackson's stand-ins. All he needed was the glove, right? And then Anita looks like she works by the hour. I'm just gonna say it. That's how she comes off. It's very trashy.
Yeah, you might also recognize him from a brief scene in another one of my favorite movies. Let me let that ambulance go past.
Yeah, they're coming to get you. So.
They're on their way to Crystal Lake.
That's what it is. It's Roy. So,
yeah, exactly. But you also might recognize him from another one of my favorite movies, the hilarious blaxploitation movie parody, Black Dynamite.
I did not remember that. That's hilarious.
He is in the Council of Pimps. He's Mo Bitches.
It's such a better movie and a better role than this. Because all he does here is like pawn off fake ass gold on his little brother, eat some enchiladas, and then have some
really dodgy van-based Mexican food.
Yeah, he lives in a van down by the river. Okay, and they're sending Grandpa whatever is sending him there because it's safer there than at the nut house in the woods where everybody's getting chopped to pieces. Which I guess so.
And you were exactly right. He is also Joanna Man.
Oh, I knew it. I knew that guy was Joe. So, wow.
And he was in Leprechaun 4.
I've seen him in so much stuff now. I've reviewed him before. How can I not remember?
He was DJ in the terrible Street Fighter movie. He was in Carnosaur 2, which is my favorite of the 3 Carnosaur movies. This dude's been in a lot of crap.
How was he not? Tell me he has done some Golden Globus work in his life that we're going to have to go back to at some point. So.
Oh, there's no doubt. I'm not all the way back through, but I mean, he keeps showing up in some rando stuff. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. But you know what? He gets the weirdest death because the enchiladas attack because of course they would after you microwave them in your van.
This is our second Friday the 13th movie in a row where someone has a poop related death.
It is a through line. You noticed it too. It's like 2 poop related deaths in a row.
It's not a through line. It's a poo line.
It is though. We get another poo death here. He's on the porta potty and he is singing to Anita out the door.
Which
some doo-wop song.
Yeah. Which it's a terrible gross out house, and B, that is a level of relationship comfort that I can only assume you get from living in a van with a person who eats like 3-day-old enchiladas.
Gotta be, because like not only is he singing to her, she is singing in return. Like they go back and forth. I'm like, this is a nightly occurrence with you two, isn't it? This is your cute thing that you do.
And all the while, we can only assume that he's crapping his guts out.
And so when we hear that he is, and all I can think is that Roy is just sort of passing through on his way to the camp to kill some more people, and he hears this going on, and he's like, "What?" And he looks over and is like, "Oh, I'm just killing these 2 people on principle." I mean, just like, nah, that cannot be allowed. So he slices Anita's throat. We find her outside the door, and then he multiple stabs through the Louvre, if you will, with a big metal stake before he finally impales Demon.
Yeah, that. I mean, it's effective. It's one of the more interesting things, but it doesn't feel sufficiently weird to kill this guy who was singing to his girlfriend while diarrheaing all over an outhouse. He should have gotten the drowned in outhouse poop death.
I don't think they could go for that. That's my only thought, is that they were like, they couldn't talk the actor into like even, with the fakery of doing it or whatever. They were like, we'll just stab him with a tent stake. Who cares? We got to move on, because the scene that starts all of this is Reggie has to go back with Pam and Tommy because Tommy bumps into Junior off of his motorcycle, Ethel's goofy redneck son, and beats the holy hell out of him, like American Ninja style. Like he goes Michael Dudikoff on this guy and just beats him down. I mean, it's like, no, sir. And I'm like, man, Tommy's learned some Tai Chi or some Kung Fu in the nut house.
Yeah, he was he got on that. He was an early adopter of Billy Blank's Taibo.
That, or he was watching. He had that same book that Ralph Macchio had at the beginning of Karate Kid, and he just took it seriously. The karate book. He nails this kid though. It's hilarious because we both can admit Junior's terrible. Like you just want to hate this guy,
Yeah.
And so when Tommy beats the crap out of him, you're like, well, Tommy finally did something I liked in this movie.
Yeah. Tommy cannot beat the crap out of this kid enough, and he's not a kid. He's like a 38-year-old man.
He's a 38-year-old man, but with a 12-year-old's mind.
Yeah, he's like the grown-up, the more grown-up version of Joey.
He's kind of like Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies. Sort of this man-child thing that shouldn't be there, but has maybe fallen headfirst into the cement pond one too many times. Because his therapy after this is to ride his motorcycle in donut circles around his yard, screaming his head off while his mother tries to make stew. Yelling at him the whole time, cursing at him, awful things. And he gets the most fun death, right? The most obvious one. Roy Jason throws his machete out there and just beheads him as he's driving by. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely the most fun death. I wish they would have cut like a minute out of that whole doing donuts and screaming, because I got sick of it.
I don't think they could, man. I think this movie was running short as it was. They had to extend this sucker out just a little bit. I mean, this one is barely. It says 92 minutes. It's 82 if it's anything.
Well, that's when you do some Zack Snyder slow-mo.
Something, right? Like you get, we haven't had our Jason slow-mo. It's been in so many films in a row now. We hadn't done that. It's all four of them have featured a scene of it, and we don't really get one here. So that would have been the time to do it.
And this is the perfect scene to do it in. You just have a slow motion shot of the head separating from the dummy body, or like a shot of the decapitated body like riding around on the little motor scooter thing.
See, that would have been awesome if the motorcycle had kept going after he kept going. So after he lost his head, if you will. But Ethel gets it pretty quick too here with a meat cleaver to the face, which I do understand was a scene that was cut by the MPAA because it was very gross with her bleeding into her stew and whatnot. But we get a close up of her like squeezing a tomato to death as she goes into the hereafter.
Yeah, and which is weird because let's not kid ourselves. Blood is the least of the problems in that stew.
Right. Like
this is someone who this is a woman who doesn't wash her hands after she uses the demon outhouse.
No, not like I almost feel like this maybe came from the outhouse. Like because everything seems to be within like walking distance of each other here. So I don't know. It's all set up to be. These are gross stereotypes, and this is now where we start turning and go. We want him to kill all of these people. Like we have no reason to care about anybody else he's killed because we've met them and then they're murdered. So we don't have any investment in anybody. We know it's not Tommy. If you've seen this movie more than once, you realize it's not him. And now you have definitive proof it's not him because he's with Pam while all this is going down. So it's not him. So now you're just trying to figure out, well, is it the old cook man? Is it Reckless's grandfather? Is it, who is doing it? And of course now, we know in the end, of course, it's Roy.
Yeah. I was just thinking how much of a better movie this would be if it was Michael Dudikoff playing Tommy.
You know what? I feel like we get Michael Dudikoff in the next movie, but we'll get there. So, I do think this is going off the rails quick though, because now we're back at the camp, right? And we have a random boy named Jake who makes a move on a girl named Robin, and I wrote down the words "shut down city." Like he's a little bit of a stutterer or something, so he finally gets the words out, and she's like, "No," and that's it.
It's like, probably it's like even more brutal than it's the most brutal shutdown in any of these flicks.
Big time.
I can't even think of even like the one in 4 where
the one in 3 where the girl shuts down Shelley and we're like, but then she starts to come around before she gets shot in the eye.
At least she's nice to him afterwards. This is really just ice cold. This is like as cold as the let me put it in the computer guy when he gets shut down.
Exactly. Yeah, it's terrible. I felt bad for the kid because then he goes upstairs to be murdered. Like he gets hit in the face with a cleaver, right? And Roy, in his infinite wisdom, has seen all this go down and decides while Robin is undressing, I'm going to set him on her top bunk so she doesn't see him when she goes to lay down next to him because bunk beds are so spacious, right? Oh, yeah. And as she lays down next to him after she randomly takes off her shirt for no reason because we just needed another shot in this movie, she gets stabbed from underneath because she doesn't notice someone on the bottom bunk either. I mean, this is lazy. This is the thing that I hate about this part of this film is that we're doing kills for no reason against characters we don't care about anyway, but now they're just being lazy about it. Like, it's just like, we just got to kill all these people now. And it's not even making any sense. As goofy as those last movies were with the way people got taken out by Jason, at least there was some little bit of rhyme or reason or pattern to it. I don't know what it is here.
And at least we'd spent more than like 2 scenes with them.
Right. Like we saw this girl fold laundry and now we see her take her shirt off and she's dead. Like that's kind of it.
And I mean, we know that's why she was hired because she was willing to take her shirt off. But can't we have like, I don't know, like her having one conversation with another person that isn't Jake? I don't even remember them actually being shown. I had forgotten that they were in the movie. They show
Well,
up
yeah.
just in time to get murdered.
You know,
And
like a
it's like-
year. The thing is this actress a year later gets killed by Norman Bates in Psycho 3 after she does weird things with Jeff Fahey and a lamp. If you've ever seen Psycho 3, I mean, it's like she gets hired for these same roles over and over again. We meet her, and then we take her shirt off, and then we stab her, and that's sort of all she's done here. It's terrible.
Yeah, remind me to tell you after we're done recording that I saw a guy who looked exactly like Jeff Fahey the other day.
This is all just random kill because we have to knock everybody off, and then finally, we haven't talked about Violet, the breakdancer girl who's popping and locking before Jason stabs her with a machete, or fake Jason stabs her with a machete. And I mean, talk about, we talked about last time that they actually had like real music in the film for once. I don't know what this crap was.
They definitely didn't have real music for this film.
They did not. It's like you turned on your Casio keyboard's preloaded stuff and you found that one key that went da 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 da, and you just sort of like recorded it for a few minutes and like, see, I made a song too.
Yeah, it was the new wave setting on your keyboard, or the
Yeah. It's very weird samba rumba thing going on. But like, what is she's dancing, and I'm like, what are your dreams? Do you want to go like be on Solid Gold? Is that your thing now?
Solid Gold wasn't even a thing anymore by this time, right?
I was going to 85. Was that even still happening? Was Bandstand still on? I guess MTV had taken over now, because we talked about before how MTV wasn't influencing these movies. It clearly is now.
She probably was trying to be like a video vixen, or she was shooting for that Soul Train dance line.
That was Soul Train. That's what I was going for. Yeah, she's trying to get on Soul Train. But alas, she gets macheted in the end of her. So fake Jason shows up finally because Pam and Reggie are hanging out, and he starts chasing them through the rain. And we see some other deaths that have come around. The other EMT, who's a total jerk early, so you know he's going to die, is like hanging out of the ambulance with his throat cut. And we haven't talked about the guy that runs this place, Dr. Matthew. Did you recognize this dude?
He shows up in the beginning and he shows up at the end to die. I did not recognize him, but he reminded me of a couple of different people. He looks like Joseph Pilato from Day of the Dead, Captain Rhodes. The guy who famously yells, "I hope you choke," as the zombies rip him in half.
Exactly.
But he sounds like 1985 era Bruce Campbell.
Well, here's the thing. It's so funny you mentioned Bruce Campbell. If you've seen the opening of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, he's the guy with the fedora that gives it to River Phoenix.
No.
Yes, that's him. And he's also in a bad movie with Tom Selleck called An Innocent Man, where he plays a corrupt cop. I knew I'd seen the face, somewhere, but the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade one, his name's Richard Young. And I'm like, he must have shot this, ran over there, did this. He came back, shot his death scene where we find him impaled on a tree with a railroad spike. And I'm like, where's the train? I haven't heard a train nearby this place in 4 movies. Look, I have relatives that work for the railroad. If the railroad is functioning, you hear a train every day, at least twice. And where did you just get that random weapon, and we don't even see it. It's one of those off-screen kills. We just see the aftermath of it.
Which, talk about a cop-out and talk about disappointing.
Completely. And the old black man, Duke, we don't even see him get killed either. He gets thrown through a window and we see his body, So I'm like, well, who's that guy? How did he end up there? I don't know. It's just it's like they went on fast forward at the end of this stupid movie.
I can only assume that's exactly what happened.
I mean, it's just bad. It's actually, his name's George. Yeah. So never mind. Not Duke, but yeah. Vernon Washington gets off. We don't even know why, right? And I love how Reggie the Reckless finally lives up to the nickname, though. He gets that tractor and he cuts down fake Jason with the tractor. He runs him over. I'm like, holy cow, man! That's finally we get some proactive protagonists, because Tommy's supposed to be the proactive one, but he's completely useless at the end. He just goes catatonic, right?
Yeah, and that's really kind of disappointing because they've worked so hard to build him up as dangerous.
Right, and all he does is freeze when fake Jason starts cutting on him.
And possibly wet his pants. That's implied, but not shown.
And that had to be something cut, because he does stand there and look like, uh-oh. So that he is gone again.
Yeah, it looks
right?
like he ate some bad enchiladas off the dashboard
Demon.
of that van.
Yeah, maybe he had one from Demon, or we just didn't see it. But fake Jason cuts him up, but it doesn't kill him. I love how Pam tries to throw him off the loft, but he hangs on like Hans Gruber style. Like he's hanging on for dear life, Roy here. And when he is finally, Tommy chops his arm off with a machete and he's impaled below, we see that he was wearing not one, but two masks. They make a point to show that the mask flies off of his face randomly as he's going down. So the stuntman did a great job of tossing that. Mm-hmm. But he's got on the bald cap thing to hide his hair because Roy had a full head of hair. And then the mask goes to the left. And I'll be honest with you, the first time I saw this movie, I missed the doctor being dead or whatever. And I thought the doctor was the Jason the whole time. And that would also be a much better movie than Roy the Random EMT.
Yeah, because Richard Young, for all his faults and all his disappearing in some point in the mid-'90s, is still a much better actor than Roy was. And at least then, it could have been something like, he's been studying Tommy's file, and he, was trying to do some radical therapy to make Tommy better, or he was.
Are you trying to tell me he was doing Shutter Island therapy? Like
yeah,
later?
Exactly. It was like a proto Shutter Island because clearly we're going to rewrite this movie until it's a much better flick. So let's just keep taking stuff. We'll turn Junior into Randy Quaid.
Yeah,
from Independence Day.
That totally works.
Or Randy Quaid from Randy Quaid's Real Life.
I'm about to say, it could just be Randy Quaid playing Randy Quaid. So then Vic, the axe murderer, has to be Tom Sizemore. I'm just going to insist on that because Clint's too old to pull that off now. But either that or Timothy Oliphant. But we get the explanation scene in the hospital, which cracks me up because it's like, we found Roy's wallet and he conveniently left all these press clippings about Jason Voorhees and a snapshot of his son that looks like it was taken 2 days before he was axed. I'm like, where did he get it from, man? Like, these cops are so ready to wrap up the case. It's like they're working on a Lifetime movie.
Nice crossover there with Unauthorized, our Lifetime movie podcast. Please check it out. We enjoy it. I'm going to assume that they thought, well, it worked in Psycho, so let's go ahead and do it again. Yet again in this series, because this is not the first time they've done that.
No, we did that at the end of the last movie. I think it was more that we did at the end of the last movie, so we need to explain it all again, right? Because we flashed to Tommy having this random nightmare about Jason, and actually he stabs Pam from like a knife he's hidden underneath his hospital bed when she comes in to see him, and then when he wakes up and he's like freaking out and. Somewhere, how did he get Roy's mask and stick it in his drawer? Wouldn't that be evidence, like Exhibit A, or something somewhere on the way?
Definitely.
That's
and I think
like
they would have
finding
noticed
a glove.
if that had gone missing, because it's not like he went anywhere but straight to the hospital.
Right, with that huge slash across his chest. Yeah, well, again, these cops are stupid, and this movie is stupid, and the ending is even dumber. And what's even worse is that they tease us with the idea that Tommy is going to take up the mantle because he's got the mask on and he's standing behind Pam with these wild eyes on a knife, and it's like, dun, 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 and then it just cuts to black. So,
and if you were going to do that at the beginning of the movie. Make him Jason. Just go straight up and do that.
Don't give me this Scooby-Doo crap with Roy. Just let him be it. It makes no sense. I think we're at the part of the podcast where it's time to do the most obvious thing besides this film is to give final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings. So tell me how small the popcorn is, Ron.
Okay, so the bag of microwave popcorn?
Right.
Well, throw it in the microwave for about 20 minutes. And then after it catches fire and becomes charcoal, that is the popcorn that Friday the 13th Part 5 is. It's it's by far the worst movie in the series. It's the dumbest movie in a series that has never really had much in the way of brains, which is kind of impressive. And even by Friday the 13th standards, it is stupid venal and meaningless, which is pretty amazing because the Friday the 13th movies, and I think you'll agree with me, are straight up the sleaziest / dumbest / here's some boobs and murder of all the 80s slasher flicks.
Oh, completely. Like we talked about in part 1, the thing about this series you've got to know going into it is that it is made purely for profit and not for story. They don't even try to tell coherent stories until years into the series. So the fact that they were able to string together 3 films from 2, 3 to 4 that had somewhat of a continuous plot line is amazing to me. And I am trying to think, Ron, if I know another horror series that from one part to the very next one went so far downhill. Like even Halloween 3, which is not a good film, but is a fun film to watch, or whatever, Halloween 3 is not nearly as dunderheaded as this thing is. This is a terrible waste of time.
And even then, you had Halloween 2 to kind of lower your expectations for Halloween 3. This one, you go from one of the better flicks in the series to the worst of all the Friday the 13th movies.
I agree. I mean, you come out with such a strong entry in part 4, and you bring back a character that you can build from, and you do it all wrong. This is the smallest of burnt garbage popcorn. One of the worst things we've ever reviewed, and we've reviewed some bad films in film strip land, not even just talking to you and I. Like, you know, Brian and I have done some bad ones, Nick and I have, all of us have done bad films together, but I don't know that I enjoyed watching one less than I enjoyed watching this. Like, this is so just a pain to get through, and I'm telling you, if it wasn't a part of the 8-disc set list that I had, I wouldn't watch it. Like, it's not worth it.
I'm the kind of person who, if I see a movie is going to be on TV, I'll tend to stop and watch it. If it's a dumb 80s slasher movie, this one I just keep right on going.
Yeah, there's nothing to hang on to from here. And
or I turn it on this one and I realize, oh, this is the one that sucks. And then I turn it on to Chopped or something.
That's when you realize, it's time to clean off that bookshelf, or whatever. I'm going to go relace my shoes or something. Like, there's so many other things you could do that are better uses of your time than Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. Friday the 13th, totally beginning nothing is more like it. This is a terrible, terrible film. So I cannot say any more about it. It's just bad and time to move on. But luckily, I can say it does get better somewhere down the line here. But I think you hit it right off the top, Ron, when you realize that this is where the series starts going down and it never totally recovers. That it just never gets back to where it had it for, at least not in the Paramount versions of Friday the 13th.
And it's not just that the movies get worse, it's that they start making less money every time too.
Yeah, I think too they turn a corner when slasher movies just don't bring in the box office anymore. We'll talk more about that in subsequent episodes. Folks, thanks for joining us in this latest edition of Film Strip. Of course, you can find all of our back catalog on iTunes and also on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Hook up with us on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think and leave a positive review for the show. It helps other people find it. Until next time, for Ron, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.